once told me that you should just assume out of the gate that everybody's doing it for a good reason, and let them prove you wrong, because they will. And my assumption is, okay, so you're doing it for a good reason, and I get it. I really do. The invasiveness of it bothers me, but I accept it. But if you abuse it, if you abuse that power that you have, you should be called to account for it in a big way. So,
yeah, but
if you have the keys to the kingdom, it's incumbent upon you to not abuse the power. And they always abuse it.
But what scares me, maybe like 5 or 10 years from now, I mean, you could be talking stuff that is totally innocent, right? But all of a sudden, if you're on this list and they're thinking about, well, you know what, we want to kind of discredit this person or whatever. I mean, they can sit there and alter anything you say. They can use it against you. I even was talking to, Michael W. Hall the other day. And one thing is, they don't need anything to just come and get you out of your house and lock you up and keep you locked up as long as they want you to without even letting you see an attorney. That's all the things. Right. It's scary nowadays. We think we have all these freedoms, and I'm not going to get political here, but it scares me because, again, you got all these people talking about Bigfoot. You got all these people talking about UFOs and aliens, and that they're working with the government and all this stuff. I think they must have a lot of people. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be one of those people who have to monitor all these type of conversations.
Well, they don't have people. It's all computer controlled. But I think that it bothers me too. I think it bothers most people. I think it bothers the people that have to monitor it because they're not exempt. And I think that if we don't want it to be that way, that it is incumbent upon us to put people in office that will prevent it from being that way. If you want to have a representative republic or democracy, then the people you put into power, you have to believe in them and to hold them to account for representing, your views. And I think that's, we live in a representative democracy or republic, and that's how you fix these things. That don't be apathetic. If you don't like the way things are, run for office. If you don't like the way things are, vote the people out that support them. Don't, sit on your hands and say, well, I'm not going to vote.
Well, how about shadow government?
That's how we control it.
How about shadow government? A lot of people go in, they think they're going to do good. They go into Congress and they go into the Senate. Of course, the first couple years they're in Congress and stuff, they're going to be put on a little, task force that really doesn't do much of anything. And they're not going to have really any input because they're a freshman in Congress. But then again, you got the shadow government, which I think is totally out of control. And I'm wondering if that actually, the shadow government sometimes even controls our own government.
The thing about the shadow government, right, is that it does exist. And it exists in all countries, big or small. And the reason it exists is a byproduct of bureaucracy, right? So what you have is you have an agency. Let's take the Department of Agriculture, something that's fairly mundane, right? So what happens is that the head of the Department of Agriculture is appointed, and they go through the selection process and confirmation hearings and all this other stuff. And they show up for work, and they walk in their office, they put up all their pictures and all their crap, and then 4 years later or 8 years later, depending on if you like the president or not, they're replaced, right? In order for the Department of Agriculture to keep functioning, you have career bureaucrats, guys that have very high levels of responsibility. And these guys stay there for 20 or 30 years. And what ends up happening is that they are the ones that actually make things work. Because people come in, they go out, they have agendas, they come in, they go out with every administration. But these guys that spend their entire lives, as a assistant director of this or assistant director of that, they're the ones that actually make things work and make things go. And so they're the ones you have to watch, because the abuses of the people who are appointed as, cabinet level people who are appointed to run, say, the Department of Agriculture, they may have excesses, and we should police that. If you're buying $200,000 dinner sets for, your office, or you're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to redo your office, that's absurd. So we should police that. But at the same time, if we need to also watch the people who are the undersecretaries and the assistants of those, to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, because that's who the shadow government is. It's those lifelong bureaucrats that occupy the floors below the guy who was appointed. And I think a lot of agencies do, even agencies like the CIA and the NSA. They have internal auditing systems where they audit the behavior of the people that work there. But if we're concerned about abuses of an agency, like the Department of Agriculture, for example, that's where we're supposed to have our representatives in the in the Senate or the House to convene committees that are supposed to delve into that and actually do something about it. Right.
That's what they're there for.
Yeah, but they don't, because a lot of our politicians get into the pockets of Big Pharma or the NRA or whoever, and they stop representing the people that voted for them, and they start representing these semi-political organizations, and that is where the problem lies.
Yeah, and I think they're also educated by the shadow government, the underground government, or whatever. And when they come in office, what they can do and what they can't do, and if they, do something that they were told not to do, then they're going to get more than a slap on the wrist.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Yeah. So naturally, they're going to.
But again, these things exist in every country. Every political structure has them.
And that's still scary.
Inescapable.
It's scary. I mean, as we advance, both technology wise and everything else, and it just makes me nervous. Now, I got to get into this. I mean, going into like the secret space force, going even back farther? Do you feel that the Nazis ever developed any way to go out in space? Do they actually, you think, maybe developed the Bell to do time travel and to go out in space or what have you? Do you think they got that far?
I do. And one of the interesting things about the Bell is that I have to plug something, unfortunately, but
go ahead.
We had in issue, well, I don't like to, but in issue 65 of Paranoia, which was the fall issue, we have a very interesting article by a guy named Walter Bosley. And what Walter is a bit obsessed with the whole Arrow thing, with the Sonora Arrow Club, NIMSA and all that. And there was a guy named Delshow, and Delshow worked with the Sonora Arrow Club, and he made these strange collages, which are basically schematics of these airships. And this is very interesting to Walter. And one day Walter was going through Delshow's art, at least the art that survived, and he found something that looked exactly like the Bell, and had arrows indicating that it counter-rotated and all that kind of stuff. And he believes that that's actually the Bell, that a very small, rudimentary form of the Bell actually powered some of these airships in the late 1800s. And if you take that and you fast forward to the 1930s, 1940s, you're talking about 60 years or more of development. So by the time you get to the World War II and the whole Kamler thing at Derisi, and the Bell and Sporenberg's stories about the Bell, it becomes much more plausible. But yeah, I do. I absolutely do. And in fact, in my books, one of the things that I point out is that if you look at the iconography of a lot of UFOs that are seen, there's a very curious thing that happens. And the genesis of it is from an article written in the 70s, I believe, by Otto Binder. And he had kind of looked at iconography on UFOs to kind of images that are shown on UFOs, and he published the results in this UFO magazine. And I looked at the photos, and I thought, well, these photos, they look like they represent stuff. So I started to look around, and lo and behold, that a lot of the symbols that were seen on UFOs actually correspond to fascist organizations. And then to take it one step further, he also had a number of reports where people had seen English characters like printed on the side of UFOs, where it would say like US and then a 4 or 5 digit number, UN, CN, whatever, and RU, and you would see all these kinds of things, and you have to ask yourself what alien is going to write in English on the side of a UFO.
I don't think any would.
I think there's plenty of,
I don't think any would.
Right, and so I think there's plenty of evidence that they're human UFOs, and the idea that the Germans in the space of 50 to 60 years had been able to perfect the Bell a little more. At that point, it seems to make a lot of sense. And I took it a lot further than that. But we'll just say that, yeah, absolutely. I think they were able to at least get a few of them operational, and frankly, to leave. I think they left.
Yeah, you mean they went off our planet somewhere else?
I do.
I'm wondering if they had them, why they didn't use them to survive the war and win the war. I mean, they would have had the capabilities. I think
they didn't have enough.
Yeah,
they didn't have enough. We had carpet bombed that country so thoroughly that there was nothing left. I mean, there was nothing left to save. And I think the people that were involved in those programs, they thought to themselves, well, we can leave and persist our ideology, or we could die. Because, okay, so you have 4 UFOs, and they're super cool, but they're not so super cool that they can survive machine gun fire and rockets. So eventually, you're going to be hunted down because you basically have the entire world against you. There's nowhere to run. So you may have them, and they may be super cool, but, you still can't win. And so I think they took off. I think they left.
Boy,
I think they come back, but I think they left.
Yeah, I wonder where they went or could have went to. I mean, unless they had a lot of help from an alien species of some sort too, maybe. Because I know that a lot of stuff I read, they say that the UFO Bell was always tied in with aliens. So did the aliens also been given them the technology? But then people ask me, like, if they were working with aliens to get technology, like in Antarctica or the Bell and stuff, then why did they get in a situation where they lost the war? Because they were getting technology, back before that.
My own belief is that it's 100% homegrown. I think we built this stuff ourselves. I don't think that there was alien intervention. I mean, you could argue that maybe somebody somewhere had found something once upon a time, and it was an offshoot of that. But I think what they did is that they went and they hid in Antarctica for a while, and I think that they were ferrying stuff to wherever they went. I mean, I have a theory about where they went, but, I think that they just did it very slowly over time because they knew. They knew it wasn't going to end well for them, so I think they planned for it, and I think they took off. And over time, they were able to build, something somewhere else. But I don't think that aliens helped them. I think that it's 100% homegrown.
Well, it's possible because, Hitler was sending, his troops and science, parties out all over the world, looking for anything occult or anything in science that they didn't have.
Yes, that's the Anna Nervi.
Oh yeah,
they were called the Anna Nervi, and they were actually a division of the SS. And Himmler had direct authority over them. And basically, what they did is in World War II, they would go to professors, and academics, and say, "Hey, join us over here in the SS, and we'll finance your stuff." And You know, whether you're